Hello, and welcome to training session number 9 of Home Fellowships. This is Pastor Rashan coming to you from Full Life Global Ministries. And in the last session, remember again that we concluded by looking at choosing a place for the meeting. And so in this session, what I want to do is begin by looking at the frequency of the meeting, and then going on to look at the time and the format of the meeting. Now, when it comes to the frequency, the choices are endless, okay? You can choose to have a home fellowship gathering once a week or once every 2 weeks or perhaps even once a month or once every 2 months and so on. It depends on what the purpose of the home fellowship is. You know, whether it's a Bible study oriented fellowship or outreach oriented or worship oriented or even relational or people oriented. And depending on what it is, you can then decide on the frequency, what you feel that God is saying is right. Also, as mentioned before, if say you have 6 people, I now touched on this before, if you have 6 people in your group, each with their own homes, all right, and they are willing to take turns hosting the home fellowship for this group, then each can host one home fellowship every 6 weeks, all right, and essentially have that home fellowship running every week. Do you see? All right, so added to this, there will also be, some groups that may want to cycle through a series of things, such as a regular meeting one week, followed by maybe a men's only meeting the next week, followed by a women's only meeting the following week, and then maybe to end the month, perhaps a special day event, such as an arts and crafts day, where you can scrapbook or paint or make jewelry and so on, or a volunteer day, where you do something special for the community, or help out a Christian charity organization to pack or distribute food, things like that. Or a game day, okay, where you can play games, okay, Christian board games or trivia games and so on. Or a movie night where you have a Christian movie or even a secular movie with Christian values. Or I've got here a tour day, okay, where you tour a museum or recreation reserve or a park or reservoir and so on, just to get out and about. And can I suggest you go online and see what's available in your area? Or of course, you can have a picnic day, right? So once again, it all depends on what the purpose of your home fellowship is and how you end up using what we will be going on to look at next, and that is the 4 W's. That's the welcome, the worship, the word, and the works of God, that is, okay, to do what you are feeling led to do. So, for example, if your primary focus is to be the Word of God, then you may want to use some of the above-mentioned suggestions to see what you can do to have a meeting available every week or 2, all right? But again, regardless of what else may or may not be available, it's still totally up to you and how the Spirit leads you. All right, if all else fails and you're just not sure that you're hearing from God one way or the other, here's a suggestion. Start with the bare minimum, even if it is once a month, and then go from there. If you find that you can do more, then you can increase it to twice a month and so on, okay? Always remember, never overextend. Anything you do needs to be sustainable. Also remember that you are not the only one doing this, okay? There will be other home fellowships. And yours, though special and unique, all right, will ultimately be one of many. And perhaps even in time join or become a part of a rotating group. Whatever the case may be, once again, just follow the leading of the Spirit. And as always, only do what He says, all right? Remember in the end that these home fellowships are to be in addition to going to church. So take comfort in that. You are not solely responsible for the growth and maturity of those in your group. And why even the Apostle Paul says in Acts chapter 20 and verse 20, how I kept back nothing that was helpful, but proclaimed it to you and taught you publicly and from house to house. All right, so believers needed both back then. And it's the same for today as well. Nothing has changed. Also remember when the church first began, it said in Acts chapter 2, verses 46 and 47, so continuing daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising God and having favor with all people. And the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved. So here again, we see that they not only had temple fellowship, okay, big church meetings, but they also had meetings from house to house. So both are necessary and needed, and people need to be going to both. Okay, and if they're just coming to your home fellowship and you're feeling pressured to grow them up and they're sort of putting pressure on you that you have to do all the work, encourage them to come to church. Okay, just say, look, we are a part of something else and we are to work in tandem with that. So it's not good for you just to be here. You do need to go to church because we are going to be moving in the Spirit, and we want to see miracles happen and we want to set people free. And so that's important that they get into that as well. Now, something else about this term house to house, in this day and age, all right, this also translates to being free to have one home fellowship join another for an evening, just for a change, and even participate in special worship or drama nights that may be held from time to time as special events, okay? Just make sure to check with the home fellowship you are going to that there's enough room, okay? All right, now let's go on to meeting time. First and foremost, it is best to set a loose schedule as to when people arrive and approximately when you might want to conclude your meeting. Most of all, can I just say, be flexible, okay? The only exception is if you are holding a home fellowship on a night where the host has to get up to go to work the next morning, in which case then you must endeavor to start and finish the meeting at the agreed times, all right? Now, also, for people that might be running late, please tell them to text you. Otherwise, assume they're not coming so that you're not holding everything up. Now, this is also important if there are people in the group that have to get back to babysitters, or for those who have school, school-age children. They may have to get home by a certain time as well, all right? Now, as to what the start time is, that's entirely up to the host, all right, and the group that gathers. One group, for example, began at midnight, okay, and went till about 2 in the morning because they were all nurses on the, night shift or evening shift or whatever it was, and midnight was the best time for them to have their fellowship, all right? So in other words, feel free to work out what's best for everyone and go from there. You can always adjust things along the way. Now, finally, let's look at the meeting format. Now, the format of the meeting will largely depend on the type of home fellowship it is, even though it can be changed and altered in a myriad of ways, okay? So don't be nervous. Now, as mentioned before, some home fellowships will be more teaching orientated, say, and some, maybe more community, and others may be more evangelistic orientated. Whatever the case, each home fellowship needs to be unique. This is what's important, all right? And tailor-made to fit the needs of the people involved, along with the particular gifts and talents of the leadership. So if you have a leadership that is very evangelistically orientated, well, you want to gear it towards that, have an empty chair available and so on and so forth. And, you'll be encouraging those people to invite whoever they want to the meeting, all right? Now, in some other home fellowships, maybe one that is more word-orientated and teaching-orientated, you might say, well, we're happy with the group that we have, so if you're bringing somebody new, please let us know, okay? Because we're only setting up chairs for the people that we know are coming, all right? So see how this can change. Now, also, every time you come together, it should be different, all right? Don't get stuck in a rut. Remember all the suggestions at the beginning of this session. There's plenty there to keep things interesting. And make sure that the people involved in helping to organize any extracurricular activities are gifted to do so, okay? This will do two things. First, it will take things off your plate. And second, it will open the door for people to walk in their gifts and shine, okay? Now, just as a side note, it is not necessary for everyone to, to have to be involved with every activity plan. But just make sure, however, that everyone does get an opportunity to do something that they like. Also, be aware of what some of the house rules may be for each home. Now, some homes may require that you take your shoes off, for example, before you enter in, while others may not care. Some homes may require parents to look after their own kids, while others may have some kind of children's area that they can safely play. Just remember, please, that these are people's homes. They're private, personal space, and they are sharing it with others in obedience to the Lord for the purpose of fellowship and Bible study. So please respect them and their homes. And make sure, listen, to leave it in better condition than when you first came in, by helping them clean up and putting everything back the way it was. Remember that every one of these home fellowships are endeavoring to bring people together so that they can work together to build the kingdom of God in various ways in a given area. Now, here are two pillars that will keep any home fellowship going forever. Be a gracious host, be a gracious guest. All right? That is, to those hosting, be a gracious host. All right? And to those attending, be a gracious guest. Now, as mentioned before, there is a particular format that I will be sharing with you next to help you get started, and it's called the 4 W's. All right? That's again, welcome, worship, word, and works. So we will spend some time looking at each of these in some detail so that you'll have a good idea of how actually to run a successful, sustainable, blessed home fellowship. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me for this home fellowship training session, and I hope to see you next time.